Well, hello everyone. We are starting season 2 of Let's Grow Young. We finally decided that we are going to go ahead with season 2 based upon listener demand and watcher demand, especially on YouTube. And it gives me absolute pleasure to have Liberty Mills kick off season 2 for us. Now, Liberty, welcome and thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Now, I think on a typical podcast, from what I've seen, the host would go on and say, "Who is Liberty Mills?" And the host has done a lot of reading and to introduce you. I've done my reading, but I just think it sounds a lot more authentic coming from you, telling us who you are and what you do. I think the headline that I have is that you're a integrative health and nutrition coach using a bespoke kind of approach, similar to mine. There's a lot more detail to it that I know of, but give us the headlines around who you are, Liberty, and what you do.
Okay, I am an integrative nutrition coach, so I primarily deal with fertility, so people with unexplained fertility, women and men. A lot of my clients are men or stressed out businessmen or stressed out businesswomen. It's a little hard to say what I do because it's all bespoke to each person. So one person may be heavily on supplements, the food on their plate. Another person, they might have kind of all that sorted, but their relationships are all a bit of a mess, and that's impacting their gut, impacting their sleep, all of those things. So it's a 360 approach.
Okay. Is that why it's called integrative?
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. And just talk to us about what led you there in the first place, and how you went down that path.
Well, what first led me, but I ignored it. What first led me, I was about, I think 19, 20. I went to go, my previous job, I was a model. I went to go and work in Thailand, and people were fasting, juicing, for like 20 days at a time. So that was, and breath work. A lot of my colleagues were working in Korea. They were all doing breath work, all of those things. So I had this different influence into my life, even like how we sit on the toilet, how we poo, all of those things. And I did that for about 2 years and became very, very healthy. Then came back to England, got in the full swing of life, became a single mom, and then I hit burnout by 30, and I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called lupus. And then, just traditional medicine was putting many plasters and trying to fill many holes where I was sort of leaking all over my body and mind. But it was only getting worse. And then I met a functional medicine practitioner. He got me better, and that fire was reignited from something I'd learnt in the past, and it's something I didn't want to let go of, and I wanted to study.
Okay. There's a lot to go into there, and I'm going to try and kind of break it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned functional medicine, you mentioned traditional medicine, you mentioned
Yeah.
integrative medicine.
Yeah.
What would be your definition of integrative medicine, and is it the same as functional medicine?
I guess it would be integrated. So to me, the way I see it, I guess it's personal to everyone else. I think you can work with Western medicine. There is a place for it. And while you're working with that, you work on how your life is integrating to support your whole body.
Okay.
That's the way I think. I don't like to exclude anything in life. I think there's a place for all types of medicine within our life.
So within my framework,
Yeah.
we talk about sleep, exercise, nutrition, community, avoidance of toxic substances, and one more thing. I can't remember what the other one is, but essentially
Hydration.
hydration, which is going to be part of nutrition as well.
Okay.
But we talk about the impact of one pillar on the other and how each of these pillars actually work in tandem. Is this quite similar to what integrative
Yeah,
medicine
it
is?
is very similar. And also, I bring in a lot of people have past traumas that they've not even worked on, that they're sort of shoving under the carpet. So it's things like that. Or you may have had a lot of, like me, previous medications
Okay.
that, you know, may have skewed a few things in your body as well.
Okay. All right. Again, lots to go into. Now, you talked about Thailand and you talked about fasting, you talked about juicing, etc., etc. And I think we need to come to that because there's a lot of stuff out there all about intermittent fasting, juicing, breath work, the stuff we all do now. But look, I come from an Eastern background. My family are from India and Kenya. And if I'm honest, a lot of this stuff my mum used to nag us about when we were kids, and
Yeah.
she was right. And um, you know I guess what I've been trying to say to people is that all this craze around this is nothing new. It's been around for ages. And what did you actually learn in your time in Thailand? What's kind of stuck with you around the Eastern practices, in particular, versus the Western medicine?
To honor the food and not to abuse it. I felt while I was eating with local people, especially, that food was there there was a lot of respect for it, you know, and you combined certain things for and there was an end game for it rather than just that gluttony. So that respect for the food.
Okay. Is that respect in the manner that you sit around the table and say you're thankful for the food, or respect
No, just
in
the
a different
respect
manner?
for the actual ingredients, what they are, and what they're giving to me, rather than, oh, I'm just going to go and stuff my face because I can.
Hmm.
You know, oh, I've had a hard day work, or I'm going out on a long trip. What foods will help me? Or the child has a fever. What foods will help them? Rather than the child has a fever, let's give them loads of candy and ice cream to cheer them up.
It
You know,
reminds
it was
me.
what support the body.
It reminds me of a phrase from Hippocrates, which says, "Let food be thy medicine." And I think what you're getting at is that, and somewhere in the Western world, we've actually lost track of that, and we've just gone into the ultra process scene. Um, I'm bouncing around a little bit, and I guess in line with what I said at the start, I wanted you to introduce yourself. Um, Having done a bit of research on you, you talk about your life being quite different from a teenager and then onwards to where it is now. Can you talk to me in a bit more about your discovery of integrative medicine and health, starting off with some of the health problems you were having as a teen?
Okay, so as a teen, I was what some would say painfully thin, even though I ate a lot. I was just, you know, like that. I was just like a long string. Like people used to call me Anna, as in anorexic. That was my nickname.
Wow.
But I wasn't, you know, and I was really uncomfortable with being so slim, and I used to try and eat lots. If someone got a cold, I would get the flu. I would sleep a lot, to the point where my mum thought maybe, like, as a mid-teen, I was taking drugs because I was just always sleeping. I don't know what drugs she thought I was taking that would make me sleep all the time, but I was always sleeping. I was very, very sickly child, I'd say from 11, 12 onwards to about 16, 17.
Have you ever figured what was driving that? And when you say sicky child,
Like I
how
say,
bad
if
did
someone
it get?
got if someone got the common cold and they were like, oh, I've got the flu, and
Yeah.
they'd be under the weather for 5 days a week, I'd be knocked out for 3 weeks.
Okay.
When I mean knocked out, I couldn't get out of bed, knocked
Right.
out.
Right.
Yeah, whereas the doctor was giving me Complan to put on everything and told me to eat. I'll never forget. He told me to eat crisp sandwiches in bed right before I went to sleep to try and put on weight.
Well, this was a doctor.
GP. They had the GP that came to the house. I was in my first year of high school, so I was 11 years old.
Wow, 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 wow. Now, what do you think was driving this sickness in you as a teenager?
I think I probably already, it wasn't diagnosed till I was 30, but as a teenager, I didn't know about stimulants really. So I didn't know about coffee. I didn't know a lot about sugar. My mum didn't have a lot of sugar in the house. But when you become an independent, 18, 19 years old, you can go out and buy all that stuff and live off it. And I'm like, oh, suddenly I've got loads of energy. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I was living off sugar and things like coffee. Yeah.
Okay. So that ultimately was driving what you call as being a sicky teenager, and then you discovered that in your 30s. But in between, you mentioned earlier, you led the life of a model.
Yeah.
So how did the modeling come about, and when did it come about, and what impact again did this start having on your on your
On my
life?
health, I used to dance for a house band.
A house
And they
band.
were called, a house band. They were called Two
Are they
for Joy,
famous?
and there were two guys on keyboards, and there was me in the middle dancing away and miming. And one of them, we were on this, like, I'm older, so I'm 50 now, and there was a show called Hitman and Her, and we were on Hitman and Her, and one of the makeup artists said I should be a model, and I was just like, oh yeah, whatever. And then I was studying for my A levels, and I came out of Manchester Library, and this man was staring at me, and he came over and was like, "Oh, you should be a model," and gave me the card, and they were both the same cards.
Okay.
So I became a model, and then that led to not eating healthy because the agency liked me skinny, and they wanted me to be even thinner. And I even remember my old measurements, and they weren't thin enough according to them.
Okay.
So that would be 32, 23-inch waist.
Wow.
I'm probably like 28-inch waist now, 32-inch hip, and I still wasn't thin enough.
Sorry, how old were you then?
So when I went to Japan, I was the week before I turned 19.
Okay.
So to put it into perspective, I'm 5'8.5", and I weighed at the most then 7.5 stone.
Okay. Okay. The nutrition was obviously pretty bad, given that you were constantly on this weight loss kind of regime because of the modelling. But what kind of mental impact did that regime have on you?
So to put it into perspective, when I was in Japan, there were, I think, 8 of us living in a house, 8 girls, and only 2 of us ate what I would call normal food. The other girls didn't eat. They would live off Diet Coke and frozen raisins. And maybe one meal a week, and we were told that they were good and me and my friend were bad. So it didn't have a good impact on you. We would drink lots and lots of alcohol in the evenings because we would get invited to clubs free, given alcohol free. So I'm damaging my liver. I'm not sleeping well properly. Then I'm not sleeping well. So the next morning you have an energy drink for breakfast. You'll have one in the afternoon. You might take something like Pro Plus to keep on going because you might be doing anywhere. The longest shoot I ever did was 23 hours non-stop. And you're also on contract for like 90 days, and that means you work 90 days. So you don't get a day off.
Yeah, yeah. So basically everything that you're preaching at the moment, you weren't doing at the time. Every single pillar: food, alcohol, sleep, maintaining energy, supplementation.
I was drinking lots of water. That was it.
Well, it sounds like you were drinking it in your cocktails, but
Yeah, cocktail was I was on hardcore, just straight whiskey or
yeah,
tequila, no
yeah,
cocktails. Too
okay,
much sugar. We weren't allowed the sugar.
yeah, and but it sounds like that lifestyle then contributed towards other problems and other issues. Now, at what stage did you get lupus, or did you get identified as having lupus, and was any of that related?
If I look all the way back into my life, and I've looked with my functional medicine practitioner, we've worked it all the way back to about 6 years old.
Okay.
There were signs of it. But I was diagnosed at 30 after, so I turned 30 in the July. I was diagnosed in the November, but that was after about over a year of going to the doctor because I had chronic pain, back pain, hip pain, knee pain, joint pain, mouth ulcers, my hair was falling out. I was losing weight again. I think by then I was back down to 7 stone. And then I used to do a lot of beauty and skincare, and I started my very textural issues with my skin, and then I got a butterfly rash, and then I started with lesions here and in my hair, and where my hair started falling out. And it was actually a locum that connected everything together, and she said, "Oh, I think you need to go to the hospital and get a blood test." And I had 9 out of the 11 markers for lupus.
And just for our benefit, what is lupus?
It's an autoimmune disease. Mine, it was attacking my skin, and I developed a heart arrhythmia, and I used to have cluster migraines. So the definition of it is where they say the body starts to attack itself, but I don't agree with that. I think it's a constellation of a number of symptoms put under an umbrella, and it's given the name of, mine was SLE. And I was really sick for about 5 years.
And this is from the age of when to when again?
30 to 35.
30 to 35. Do you think that modeling lifestyle had any impact on this? Or
I think the modeling lifestyle and the person that I became pregnant with wasn't a particularly nice person. I did marry them. I was divorced by the time I was 25. It was a crazy custody battle that cost me over 40-odd thousand pounds. The stress of that, I think, was the final push.
I'm pausing.
Everybody said no more.
I was pausing slightly there because it's actually, to me, I guess I'm read quite a lot about this. To me, as I mentioned before, every aspect of those key pillars in your life seem to be under attack, right? Including community, where you've talked about your husband or ex-husband.
Yeah.
The body, although you said it wasn't under attack, it sounded like it was under attack. And all the periphery around it, the nutrition, the diet, access to toxic substances,
and lack of community because of my job.
Yeah.
You know, as a model, people are flying here, there, and everywhere. You don't go to an office. You're not in a factory. You don't have that constant community and network around you.
And that's really important, because the community had around you that you had around you were fellow models who were criticizing you for eating such minimal food. And for me, what this points at is that exactly what we're trying to preach, which is that you will get the signs of having an imbalance in certain areas of your life. If you ignore them, I'm not saying this has led to your lupus or it's led to something else, but collectively, in aggregation,
a contribution.
They can have a massive impact. Now, at what stage then did you go to Thailand? Just remind us then. So you have.
I was in Thailand maybe like age 20.
Okay. this was age 20, prior to lupus
Yeah.
diagnosis. And you got to Thailand, continued with the modeling, and you had access to the Eastern way of life.
Yes, and modeling was very different there though, because we went as independents. We weren't there under an agency, so we weren't being dictated of what to do.
Okay.
So I had autonomy over myself. If I wanted to put on weight, that was okay. If I wanted to change my hair, if I wanted to get suntanned, that was okay. They weren't ruling my life.
Okay. Did you start doing any of the practices that the local people in Thailand were doing at the time? You talked
Yeah, we
about
did.
fasting and juicing.
We did, especially breathing. We used to eat local all the time. As much as possible, a bunch of us would take time off. We'd go to the beach. We'd do cleanses. We would fast. I remember fasting. We used to fast a lot, like around Christmas, because it would be the opposite to what we normally would have done.
And how long did those fasts last? And did you understand why people were fasting?
Yeah, I knew it was giving my body a break as well, and mentally I felt more rested.
Okay. So you were beginning to understand the impact that this sort of medicine over Western medicine could have on you, and were you beginning to feel the benefits of all of this?
Yes, I was, but then I came back into the Western world, and then it all just went awash with me again.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we're going to come back to the Western world in a minute, but I'm really keen to explore this. When you were in Thailand, what you mentioned you ate local food. What sort of food was that?
Well, I was a vegetarian then, so lots of veggies, rice, but it was more things like the herbs, lots of just fruit on its own. You know, it wasn't like fruit with yogurt, and it was just in its purity form. The breath work and the toilet, going on the toilet, meditating.
I noted that earlier, and I wanted to come back to it. How should I be having a poo? How should I be sitting?
Well, like sitting on the toilet with your knees up. So we all had a potty squatty stool.
I'm sorry. I'm just going to interrupt. My son is looking at me in the other room, thinking, "What kind of bloody podcast is he doing today?" And yes, sorry. Just tell us again. So your feet on.
The feet on the stool. At the moment, I just use my 5-year-old stool.
When you say stool, well, what do you mean by stool?
So your knees are raised. So
is there a hole in the ground?
Something like that, and you're not crushing your colon.
Okay, but is it
slightly up?
Is it a traditional toilet? Was it a traditional toilet or a hole in the ground?
This was a traditional toilet, hence why you use a stool that goes around it, called like a potty squatty.
Okay, all right. So
it's a bit like you would do if it was a hole in the ground and your feet are there and you're literally having to squat, right?
No, I'm trying to describe it to the listeners and viewers because, to be honest, some of my family in India back in the day followed a similar routine. But you said that was to protect your colon.
Yeah, because then you're not squat. Because the way we sit, you're almost like crunching your colon, aren't you? The way we sit, you're not letting it flow down like that. Okay. And a lot of people will be like that on their phones now, won't they? All like that.
They will be, and then so other than squatting, kind of on a stool, is there any other part of this routine? I'm going to clip this. I'm going to clip this piece to put out as a promo.
I'm always talking about poo. I don't know. It was just like, even my agent. I remember talking about someone. I can't remember, and she said the woman has a hot liver, and you can see it in her face. So understanding things like how your emotions affected your organs and how it affected your skin.
Yeah.
You know, just listening to conversations like that were not really something I was used to growing up in Lancashire.
No, I do get that. I do get that, and I do understand what they're saying. But I just want to close the loop on the poo because
Okay.
you kind of squat down on a stool and then you
Yeah.
poo. Is there anything else to the routine in terms of other stuff, in terms of like
No,
clean?
go regularly as well. Go regularly. So even if you don't feel like you need to go, just go and sit there and hang out like you would tell a child. Just go and try. And quite often, if you're going on a long journey, you say, just go and try to a toddler, and then they go and they're like, oh, I did need a poo or a wee. So that was also a thing. You go regularly. Yeah.
At this stage in your life, you'd started discovering Eastern medicine. You were beginning to understand some of the science behind it, and you were beginning to feel better. And then you
Yes.
moved back to Lancashire, back to the UK.
I moved back to the UK. I moved to Manchester, and then I ended up in South Africa. Then I moved after my divorce. I moved to London and just got in that whole rat race of life.
Yep. Okay. And what changes did you start noticing to your body when you moved back to that rat race compared to the Eastern world?
My skin, my hair. My hair wasn't as luscious and as big, and um, my skin had those textural issues again. After a while, I just put it down to being a young mum. I was tired.
Yeah.
Well, you're tired because you've got a baby. Oh, you're tired because you're on your own. Oh, you're tired because you've got a toddler. Oh, you're tired because you're so busy working.
Yeah.
But no, I probably had chronic fatigue.
Yeah. Okay. And how did that manifest itself? Later on, you got lupus, but
Yeah.
what other things were manifesting
How
when
was it showing up? So, for example, my daughter would be like 7, and I'd have to set the alarm if I wasn't working to make sure I hadn't fallen asleep to pick her up from school at like 3:15.
yeah? And was any of this sort of stuff happening to you in Thailand?
No,
Okay.
no, I was like a different human being. I was playing like basketball, sports, also swimming, all sorts of things.
So you were living a real life example of seeing how a sudden change in your environment can affect you totally as a person, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Um, just moving forward a bit, and I am conscious of time. We won't go into lupus too much, but having done some reading about some of the things you were going through, you
Mm.
actually ended up needing the support of a Zimmer frame at a time, didn't you?
Yep, I had a Zimmer frame. I had a walking stick. I had a perch in the kitchen because I would need to rest because I was quite frail. I wasn't allowed to use the bath anymore. I had a stool in the shower. Quite often, my daughter would have to wash me, and I'd just sit there. My sofa was raised on stilts because if I got down, I couldn't get up again. And I had a lever to help me get out of bed.
So that sounds absolutely awful. That sounds
And I went down to 5.25 stone.
wow. And what were the traditional doctors saying to you at this time?
There's no cure. It'll just get worse. And I started on, at first, the first lot of drugs did help. I wasn't in as much pain. I didn't get as many headaches. But then as the dosages had to go up, then I started getting side effects, and I had to have other tablets to stop those side effects. Then it started attacking a different area of my body. So then I'd have to be, I'd been in hospital and they couldn't understand where I was getting these cluster migraines from, and it was just go here for this. Oh, my menstrual cycle was just all over the place. I was bleeding 3 weeks out of 4. So, you go to the gynecologist for this. And I was just on so many tablets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I think your daughter said something to you quite frightening at that time, didn't she?
Yes, she did. And I still have so much guilt over it. She came home and they'd been learning about mortgages and business at school. She was about 12. And she said, I've been learning. She asked me, what sort of mortgage do we have? Because I had a little flat in London. And she said, well, I understand it, and I know how to pay all the bills, and I know how to do anything, but how am I going to pay it all when you die? Because you're going to die in a few years, and there's just me. Because my mum lived in Spain, her dad wasn't around, I have no siblings, so who's going to look after her?
How did you feel?
And that's what made me think, even if there's one person in the whole world that has reversed this, I need to find out how they did it and what they did, because I have to be here to look after her. Even if it just gave me another 20 years, 10 years, whatever, until she could just get a job and set up herself. I had to change things around. I didn't have a choice.
Okay.
Because what Western medicine was giving me wasn't giving her a life, and it wasn't, enabling her to sleep. It wasn't helping her study because she was worrying about me. It was impacting her social life because she didn't want to go out and stay at her friends, because who was going to help me to the toilet?
Mm. Mm. Got it. So that was a kind of a massive jolt to you when the daughter said that.
Yeah.
And clearly, any child saying that to a parent, it would have a major reaction. How did you then get into discovering integrative medicine as a solution?
Well,
From your point?
so as anyone would do, I asked around, or geeky me, I just ordered. There wasn't much I could do apart from read. So, and it wasn't on screens because that would hurt my eyes. So I just bought lots of books and read all different things. Then I found there was an article of some man who, because my skin was a mess. And so bearing in mind now, I have no money. I'm at risk of losing my flat because I can't model. No one wants to book me as a model because I look awful. I found this guy that did laser on the skin for scarring and things like this, and I went to see him armed with my credit card. Never forget, with my credit card, I was like, just add some more money. And he said, I can help get rid of that. It'll take a few sessions and will calm the inflammation, but it'll just come back. I was like, okay, it's not exactly the answer I wanted to hear. He said, but I'll give you a couple of free sessions, and with this money you're going to spend with me, go and spend it with my friend. So it was a win-win. I was like, okay, well, sure. I've got nothing to lose. You're going to sort my face out for free for some unknown reason, and you want me to go and spend money with this guy who is a functional medicine practitioner. So I went to him, and he really, really helped me and changed my whole life around.
Okay. Just describe that, and what I want to get to here, Liberty, is that you clearly have your own practice, and you advise clients, and so don't be shy about using your examples to demonstrate to people how you can help them in a similar approach.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
I know we talked about bio-individuality earlier, and everyone's
Yes.
different.
Yeah.
But what I want to really get at is that you've been through real trauma, physical, mental, emotional.
Yeah.
You were 5.5 stones. Your daughter,
5.25 stone. Yeah. About 9.5 stone now.
yeah,
And I'm still slim.
yeah, your daughter thought that you were going to not make it, and she was making
Yeah.
contingencies.
Yeah.
Traditional medicine wasn't helping, and as I follow you on social media, you are now at a predicted biological age of 15 years below where you chronologically are at the moment. So
Yeah.
massive applause to you for getting through all of that. But what I want to do now is talk about how you go about helping people who may be in similar situations, who could potentially be clients of yours, by using the examples of how functional medicine at that point started changing your life.
One of the first things that he did, and it's one of the first things I'll do with my clients, because like you say, it's about those foundational pillars, is water. I stopped drinking tap water.
Yeah.
Yeah, stopped drinking tap water, and I got a water filter, because that's the thing that was meant to be flushing all the toxins out of me, and I was just drinking a whole load of chemicals
Yeah.
on top of it. So that's one thing.
So,
Me with
so when you say filtered water, do
mm.
you, do you mean just tap water filtered into a kind of a jug and it purifies it, or is
So
it
I
is
have a
something?
big desktop they call it countertop
Yeah.
thing with a filtration system, and then it remineralizes. Or you can get these ones that go under the sink.
Yeah.
Also think about how you shower and bathe as well, because if my thing, and how I say it, especially to women, is if HRT, and you can have a transdermal cream or gel, is going to rebalance your hormones and lower some of your menopausal symptoms or perimenopausal symptoms, any cream that you put on your skin is also going to have a hormonal effect. So I threw out a lot of my cosmetics and creams and lotions and potions, and went as natural as possible with everything on my skin,
Okay. Great.
because
So
it needed to lower that toxic burden just on my day-to-day living.
okay. So the first thing was changing water,
That
and
was the
then
very first thing that I did.
okay, and then
And then it was the lotions and potions. Average woman, I think it says, puts on over 515 chemicals on her body every day.
well,
And we wonder why I think we are, don't quote me on it, but it's something like, I think we're 8 times more likely to develop an autoimmune disease than a man.
wow. I certainly
There's a
don't.
lot more. Yeah. So it's a lot more. So why? Like, what is the difference? Well, in general, we put on a lot more cosmetics on our body than a gentleman does.
Mm.
It's
What?
going to be a contributing factor.
Yeah. So instead of those lotions and potions, what do you use now?
Things like cow fat. I'm no longer vegetarian.
Just remember, you're talking to a Hindu here. Cow fat.
I know. Ironic. Don't wear it on your legs when you go out, because a dog was just really licking my legs the other day. He was like, oh.
Dearie me, dearie me. So
I'll use natural oils, just as natural as I can be.
okay.
Of course, there's the odd one that sneaks in there. Like, I don't know. I don't think my mascara is non-toxic, but everything else on my face is.
Do you use any perfume?
Only one that's got essential oils in.
Okay, because I expect the cow fat doesn't smell that great, and so
No, so that's why I generally only wear that at home. My poor partner.
all right, okay.
Yeah, don't wear it to the beach. I wore it to the beach, and I was like, oh, something smells like off butter, and then I realized it was myself.
Okay, so we got water, lotions, and potions.
Lotion, perfume is one of the worst things. Why do you think in fertility clinics people are advised not to, like the people that work in there, please do not wear perfume? And if you're going to visit a newborn baby, they say don't wear perfume.
Yeah, only for us to then later on smother ourselves in it. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
So functional medicine started changing things. You had water, lotions and potions, perfume. What other changes did you make? I know you've talked on your socials about Ayurveda as well. Well, what other influences?
So certain Ayurvedic herbs. Also, I used it for the trauma and the stress, and I had high levels of anxiety. A lot of flower remedies. They were better for me than any antidepressant.
Can you give us an example of that?
I'm just using one now, a mix, because I'm stressed about writing my book. So every so often I just
I didn't think I was stressing you out, to be honest.
No, it's writing the book that's stressing me out. I'm dyslexic. Writing a book stresses me out.
What flower are you using to de-stress?
I'll tell you what it's got in it. I know passion flower is a good one. Heather is the one I'm just using at the moment. There you go, Heather,
Okay.
a Heather remedy.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, so all sorts of things. Journaling was a huge. I started when I was 30 years old, and I still do it now at 50 every single day. That helped a lot because we often hold a lot of crap inside us that we're or woulda, coulda, shouldas. First thing. So if you wake up, oh, I woulda, coulda, shoulda done this yesterday, and you're already in a negative state, you're going to think, oh, I'll cheer myself up. I'll have a croissant. Oh, I'll have a frothy coffee.
Mm.
And then it gets to lunch and you need another, or 10, 11 o'clock. Then you'll have a chocolate biscuit.
Yeah.
But if you've already got that out in the morning and worked things out and maybe done a gratitude list, you want to be kinder to yourself because you're like, oh, actually, I'm doing all right. I'll go and have, I don't know, what did I have for breakfast this morning? Tuna, avocado, egg, rocket, jalapenos, and olives. I'll
Sounds
have that
good.
because I want to be nice to myself.
Okay. So it sounds like you made a lot of changes. We've talked about lots of stuff, including nutrition, and other areas. What about things such as your exercise routine and the people who were supporting you, or the people you were hanging out with, or the people you chose not to hang out with any longer?
Yeah, so I chose not to hang out with the party people anymore. They went in the bin. I got a PT who was amazing. Sometimes he was like, if you could just get in the car. I was like, I can't do it. I can't get there today. He's like, get in the car and I'll get you from the car. I had an automatic car. So as long as you can get here, I'll help you out. So he did a lot of rehab things with me, a lot of foam rolling before I even started my exercise, because I was no longer trying to exercise to be skinny. I wanted to exercise to be strong.
Okay, and understood. And that's because you wanted to strengthen your muscles and for mobility and so on.
Yeah, to be able, so I wanted to for strengthen my muscles, not only for mobility, and I wanted obviously to put on some weight,
Yeah.
but I wanted my body to be able to literally carry me into the future. We all have that image of a frail older person, like an old lady or an old man with their walking stick, and they're so frail and they break their bones and their hips and things. I didn't want that to come to me at 40 or 50 because that's the way I was heading.
Yeah, and when you started practicing functional medicine, integrative medicine, and Ayurvedic medicine, how soon did you start feeling the benefits and the results?
Literally within about 6 to 8 weeks, my doctors already started to lower some of my medication because the blood work was already showing an improvement. It wasn't, it could have just been a placebo. I'm taking all this stuff, of course I'm going to feel better. But I used to have my bloods checked every 2 weeks because I was on certain medications that could damage my liver, especially.
Yeah.
So the blood work was already showing this improvement already in 8 weeks. So they
Wow.
were like, okay, you can lower this, you can lower that. You don't need that to counteract that because you're not on such a high dose anymore.
It is amazing, isn't it? Why do people just not get the obvious? What you put into your body, the environment you hang around in, how you move, etc., has a direct impact on what happens to you.
Because sometimes I know, so in my practice, working with my clients, I do mini sessions. So 30 minutes, person to come to me with any array of whatever their issue is. And I can tell you, A, if I want to work with a client, or B, if they're going to have a success.
Yeah.
I don't always know with fertility, but if it's autoimmune, weight management, rheumatoid arthritis, all of that, which is autoimmune, I can tell you the ones that are going to have a success.
How can you tell?
because they don't make excuses, and they're going, oh yeah, but you know, the doctor says I'll never be able to reverse this, or the doctor says I'll be on this for the rest of my life, or my mum has this, my dad, you know. I'm like, yeah, your mum might have that. Does she have the same diet as you? Does she have a similar lifestyle? Yeah. Well, that's why.
Can't I just drink a kale juice? Can't I just drink a kale juice?
Yeah, or they just want to pop a pill. Can't you just tell me which pills to take and then I'll be fine? No, because you can take your, I don't know, shatavari, drink your kale juice, your cucumber juice, what was it? Celery juice. That was what the guy did. Your celery juice is not going to conquer all, is it? Because it may have great benefits and be replacing your bacon butty that you used to have in the morning, so therefore it's better. But if you're still peed off with your husband, or have a grievance against your boss, or you have mold in your house, or you're drinking decaf coffee that's been made, you know, extracted the caffeine with terps, then you're not going to have as great results as you might want.
This is absolute music to my ears, Liberty. I think this is the one podcast where actually there's been many, but I think this is the one podcast where there's been such a massive overlap with what I'm trying to say to people. And it's not rocket science. It's just the obvious.
It's not rocket science. And I get slagged off quite often on other people's accounts, especially in regards to lupus. Oh, she hasn't cured it. She's just in remission. So I've been in remission, for 15 years?
Yeah.
And I can now bench press more than I weigh. I just shot a beauty campaign with no makeup on for number 7, with no makeup on at all, at what was I then, 49. I wouldn't have been able to do that 20 years ago because my skin was just all cracked, blistery mess. My skin has improved. That is the ultimate proof. It wasn't a medication. It wasn't the injections I was having. It was, I changed my whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm very protective of that now. Like, if you come to stay at my house, you're going to bed at 10 p.m. I don't care who you are. I don't care if it's Christmas Eve, someone's birthday.
You take my kids in.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's got to go. Yeah. Because I protect my sleep massively. Because that's when my body can do all its great stuff with all the good food I've done and repair from the exercise I've done. If I'm going to bed at 1 a.m, it can't do that as well.
Yeah, 100% agree. Now, Liberty, look, I'm very well aware that we've got to leave within the hour, and we're almost at the top of the hour. There are so many other things that I want to talk to you about, but we can bring that to another conversation. I've not talked sufficiently about menopause, and we've not talked sufficiently about supplementation. But I think we will come back to that at some time.
The menopause as well. You can't, just because it's such a big thing out there. Please, people, if you are listening to this, or your partner is going through it, or you're a mum or you're a sister, it doesn't have to be the end of everything. You know, I often hear people say, oh, is that the end of my sex life? Is this going to happen? Is this awful? I had a client, she was having 60 hot flushes a day. She tried HRT. It worked for a while, then it stopped working. It was really causing her embarrassment at work. It was causing her loss of confidence within her relationship with her partner. She started on maca omega-3, lowered her amount of alcohol, just those 3 things, right? She's now down to 0 to 3 hot flushes a day.
Wow. Absolutely amazing. And that's without medication, just small interventions
small interventions.
Liberty, if people want to get hold of you, if people want to reach out to you and have a conversation with you, how do they do that?
I'm on Instagram. It's mills.liberty, because some strange man in Buffalo stole my old Instagram. Or you can reach me at Integrative Liberty. That's my website, .uk. Integrative Liberty. And you
And
can just fill in a form and we can have a little chat.
And I encourage everyone to follow Liberty on Insta, because your posts are really authentic and really brilliant, if I'm honest. And I
I
love
think
you.
you would like today's post. I had a little rant. I just couldn't help it.
I think I did notice it earlier. I think I did notice it. I'll have to go back and take a look at it. I did. I think I did notice it. And if there are any kind of top 2 or 3 tips that you would give to just anyone, they don't have to be going through any issues or any problems, what would they be?
Oh, well, prevention is better than cure. Go to sleep the same day you got up. So none of this, oh, what time did you go to sleep last night? Oh, 1, 2 in the morning. That's the same day. You need to go to bed at night, not in the morning. It's simple. Within the laws of nature, you go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, unless you're a shift worker. And then, so be it, do other things to support you there. Try and get as clean water supply as possible. And the next thing is, I really, really, truly do believe in journaling. It's negative thoughts are like any poison. It's better out than in. So quite often when we write things out, we work the problem out on the page. So they're my top 3. Go to bed. Like my grandpa was a doctor told me when I was at uni, get to bed by 10. I was just like, yeah, whatever. Don't learn the hard way like I did. Get to bed, get as clean water supply as you can afford, and journal. And that's only the cost of, a pad and a pen. Don't journal tappy on a computer. The art of the pen and paper, please.
I think they're 3 amazing tips, and the one I like the best is go to sleep at the same day that you woke up. That is fantastic, and I've been implementing that a lot, and I've seen the benefits. Liberty, that's been a great conversation. As I mentioned, to conclude, the key thing for me is it's supporting everything I've been saying, and my framework essentially talks about hitting the pause button in life, doing an audit of your life, using lifestyle medicine as a blueprint, and looking at those key pillars that we talked about earlier. Implement changes once you've identified where that blueprint works. Look at your habits, look at your consistent habits, look at the direction you want to go without overthinking it. And before you know it, in autopilot, you've made small increments of changes in your life.
Exactly. Little and often. You don't have to do a whole big thing. Just, like you say, 2 things maybe a month, and then bring in something else.
Yep.
Be kind to yourself.
Indeed. Fantastic, Liberty. Look at that. We've done it with 2 minutes to spare, because I want to make sure you get out on time. Is there anything else you want to mention that I've not said so far? And
I'm really, really grateful, and I like what you said. Do an audit of your life. I love it.